this is going to be the last episode of Season 3. I'm not ending Talk Academy. I hope that nobody thinks that. I will be resuming Talk Academy, but I need some time to get some things together for the next season. So I think that I'm planning on starting up Season 4 or Season 3.5 or whatever, the mini season, whatever you want to call it. The next project, I'm planning on starting it in February. Hello and welcome to Talk Academy, the podcast dedicated to improving ag literacy around the globe. I'm your host, Brandon Black, and it's been a while. Unfortunately, I've just been insanely busy with midterms and with other school projects and clubs and a mountain of other responsibilities on top of 2 jobs and other complications. So I haven't really had the time to record because I kind of got behind the ball on my bulk recording and editing, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't exactly get to end the miniseries quite like I was hoping to. I was hoping to have a couple more episodes, wrapping up the final points of it, talking about the purpose in protecting agriculture, and then, doing a conclusion and like a summary of the whole series, and then ending it from there. That didn't quite happen, and because it's been almost a month, if not more by now, since the last episodes come out, I decided just to make this episode addressing what the plan is for the future of Talk Academy, just because of, I need some kind of clarity before I move on with the next steps. This episode will serve as kind of a multi-part episode, not in the sense I'm going to have multiple parts to it, but in the sense that we'll be covering multiple different topics within it. So first of all, to kind of close out and finalize the mini-series once and for all, the last part was going to be dedicated to explaining why agriculture is worth protecting in the first place. And I don't think this is something that I necessarily need to defend heavily, because I think that agriculture is something that anyone who listens to this podcast already appreciates, or at least acknowledges the importance of. But just for the sake of argument, I mean, this mini-series has sought to prove that agriculture is more than just food production, that the reason it's worth protecting is more than just because we need to eat, that there's actually a deep societal connection between agriculture and humanity, that in order to have a civilization, you have to have a sufficient form of food, and agriculture provides that form of food, but also labor and invention and technology and even culture to a degree, that, a majority of history and, modern media that we consume and almost anything in modern society originates from agriculture in one way or another. One of the things that I considered putting into one of my supporting evidences was, even the founding fathers of the United States. I've been doing a lot of research on them lately because I recently watched Hamilton, and it kind of got me back into my old history days. But, some of the earliest founding fathers of the United States were farmers. Some of the earliest founders of a lot of societies were farmers. Because, as we mentioned, agriculture needs to be the foundational piece of a society for it to be considered a society. And I think that was kind of one of the big things I really wanted to cover with the mini-series, is that agriculture is more than just, like I always say, it's more than just plows, cows, and sows, and it's more than just feed, seeds, and weeds. It's all about the culture that is involved in cultivation. It's about the societal origins, in the soil. It's about the connection between what we consider nature and what we consider civilization, technology and natural development of the environment, and of, what we have created as our environment, cities and urban areas. So that was kind of the main purpose of the final episode. And I meant to have a guest, and we talked about it, and it just didn't work out from a scheduling perspective, so that didn't quite get to the level I was hoping it would, but that's okay. We addressed everything we needed to address in the last few parts of the miniseries, and I think that even though it didn't quite end where I was hoping it would, the main purpose of the miniseries was almost a thought experiment for me. It was a chance for me to kind of work through some of the things I've been theorizing about for some time, and to really see where I stood on a lot of the issues that I was discussing. So from that degree, it actually helped out quite a bit. It gave me a lot of clarity and a lot more inspiration in terms of my purpose with this podcast, and that is to promote agriculture not as just a tool for food production, but as an essential aspect of our society and as something that needs to be protected at all costs. And that's not to say that agriculture is completely faultless. There's definitely aspects of agriculture that need to be changed and adjusted, and we can talk about that, for days on end. But the agriculture is left out of the equation more often than not, and more as time progresses, and that is a fatal mistake, and that it will come back to bite us if we're not careful. So that was kind of the big thing with why agriculture needs to be protected. Again, this is going to be a bit of a shorter episode because I want to cover a lot of things. I don't want to spend a whole hour of just you guys listening to my voice. So that was kind of the first thing I wanted to cover. The second thing was a summary of the overall miniseries and kind of what it was meant to look like. So, as I mentioned in one of the episodes, it was meant to kind of follow an essay-like pattern. So it started off kind of establishing the relationship between agriculture and society, and defining some terms and kind of going into the foundation of the theory that agriculture and society are not only inseparable, but that the two basically build off of each other. That the agriculture needs to exist for a society to be able to be founded, and that society fuels agriculture to continue to progress. And so as we kind of talked about that, we dove a bit deeper into some of the more specific examples of that. And then I really kind of went ham on that third point, which was agriculture surrounds us in everything that we see. It's in our video games, it's in our movies, it's in our TV shows, our books. Everything that we consume is based in agriculture, or at least has an aspect of agriculture as part of it. And I think that was kind of part of the reason why the miniseries took so long and why it was drawn out so far. I loved all the episodes I did with it, and that's why I don't regret making it as long as I did, because I had a lot of fun. But I think that was a point that could have been summarized a bit more cleanly than I did. But again, the episodes were fun regardless, and I really enjoyed diving deep into those theories and really playing with the thought experiment with it. But the overall summary for the miniseries was that agriculture has deep roots in society, that agriculture is foundational to society, that it can't be separated, and that it's important to protect because, again, it's not just an origin of food, it's an origin of culture. It's an origin of humanity. It's we all come from the soil, and we all must work with the environment and with the soil and with the nature to preserve Earth. I mean, it's something that we talked about in the Wall-E episode. If we don't take care of the environment, it's going to hurt us a lot more than we're hurting it. And in some cases, we're already seeing that happening. But vice versa, if we don't have a solid relationship with the environment, we will not continue to survive either. So we need to be able to work with the environment in a way that benefits both parties. We need to acknowledge the utility in cultivation and the positive aspects of agriculture and how those implications benefit society overall, but not ignore the damages that can be caused if we're not careful in terms of environmental damage and also damage to society by neglecting that source of food and culture that we've been talking about. So that was kind of the general summary that I was looking for the whole miniseries. And I know that was supposed to be kind of the final project of season 3, and that kind of transitions me into this last point. So I know I'm going kind of fast, and that's because I've been trying to get this episode out for weeks now, and I just have not been able to find the time to sit down and record it. So I'm kind of just getting all the thoughts out of my head before I forget them. So I'm going to try to slow down a little bit on this next part because I think this is important for you guys to hear. This is going to be the last episode of season 3. I'm not ending Talk Academy. I hope that nobody thinks that. I will be resuming Talk Academy, but I need some time to get some things together for the next season. So I think that I'm planning on starting up season 4 or season 3.5 or whatever, the mini season, whatever you want to call it. The next project, I'm planning on starting it in February. That is my plan for right now. I'm hoping that it can come out in February, and that gives me enough time to bulk record and to edit and to schedule and to get episodes together and to get guests and all the background work that needs to be done. Because I want to make sure that I have a sufficient product that can last me a long time and is keeping you guys entertained. So for the sake of quality and for the sake of progressing this project, I'm going to be ending season 3 here, today. And I'll be taking a few months off to kind of ready myself for the next thing to come. And the next season is actually going to be something that I'm extremely excited about. I've actually already started working on it. I've been contacting guests and getting schedules worked out to start recording episodes. The content of the episodes is going to be really exciting. I think it's going to be something you guys are really going to enjoy. And the guests are people that you guys are going to absolutely love. I'm 100% sure of that. So there's a lot of potential for this new upcoming season, and I actually even have plans for the next project that I'm working on as well for Talk Academy. So we have the next season that's coming out in February, and then I have another season planned out coming after that I'm already working on. So there's a lot of work going into the Talk Academy right now. It's just kind of a crazy time again with midterms and with clubs and teams and jobs and other projects and homework and family and relationships, and it's just a lot. It's life of a college student. It's a lot to manage. So I have been seeing a lot of people leaving the podcasting sphere after the big podcasting boom of 2020. And it makes me kind of sad to see that people are leaving. And I understand why. It's really difficult to manage all of this now that we're starting to return to normal and we're starting to go back to normal operations of life. Going outside again, socializing with people, going to our jobs and school and other responsibilities. It's hard to manage it. I understand that. But it is sad for me to see all of these people starting to back out. People that I've built strong relationships with over the years, and I hope that for anyone who is deciding to back out of the podcasting sphere, that that you're always going to be appreciated. And so I, for any of my friends who are leaving podcasting, I'm not going to name any names right now because I don't want to reveal anything that hasn't been revealed yet. But for any of my friends who will be leaving the podcasting sphere, you guys better believe that they will be back on the show to have their final words, to say their goodbyes to podcasting, and maybe not forever. Maybe they'll come back at some point, but it is a very challenging time right now. Everyone's in this weird transitionary period. We're trying to figure out how to live normally in life. Well, there are a million and one other things going on in the world that we're trying to balance as well. And so little hobbies and projects like podcasts are something that are just not easy to maintain. And I've definitely been struggling with it as well. It's something that a lot of people are struggling with right now. So I'm definitely sympathetic for those who are struggling with maintaining these projects. I don't plan on quitting. I just need time to work on stuff and to kind of get my act together. But I will be having more episodes and new projects and new things that I'm working on coming out soon, and I'm incredibly excited for that. I'm excited for you guys to get to hear all of it because I think that it's going to be really, really cool what we have planned out for the future. I'm not going to release any major information right now. I'm just going to say that there will be a lot of conversations that revolve around things that we've kind of hinted on here and there. There will be more in-depth conversations. We'll be focusing a lot more on specific issues and specific topics as opposed to just general conversations about agriculture. The guests will be a lot more focused. It won't be just me grabbing random people off the internet. There's going to be actual planning going into it. There's a lot of work going into the next 2 seasons. It's going to be a massive ambitious undertaking that I'm extremely excited for. And I'm hoping that, going into it, we're going to have everything. Everything's not going to go perfectly. It's not going to go as planned. It never does. But to have all of my dominoes lined up, as perfectly as I can get them, having all my ducks in a row, and I'm going to be, getting help from others to make this possible as well. It's going to be really cool. I'm incredibly excited. I hope you guys are. If you have any ideas that you'd like to suggest for episodes for the next couple seasons, be sure to let me know, and I will take those into account and suggest them to my guest list. I already have all of the guests that I want for next season kind of planned out, and I'm in communication with them. If you're interested in being on the show, we can always make something work. But these next 2 seasons, the guests are a bit more specialized, so it's going to be a bit of a different structure than what we've been doing before. But I really wanted to focus in and to capture some ideas of some other, things that we've been kind of playing with on a conceptual level. And that'll all make sense in a few months when you guys kind of see what's going to be rolling out. there are a couple things from a behind the scenes perspective that are going to be played with, some other platform based work that's being done right now for the podcast, as well as some other financial projects, I guess you could say. So there's a lot of moving pieces right now, and that's why it's so difficult to really put a lot of work into the podcast right now, because there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I'm focusing on too, on top of all the other stuff. But just bear with me, be patient. I know that listenership is going to be down for a little while. I know that people are going to be, kind of checking out, but I fully plan on having a full campaign on getting the podcast back into the public sphere and getting people listening to it again and engaging and, having conversations about the things that we're going to be focusing on, because they're important. My goal for this next season is not just to connect with consumers about agriculture. That's always a goal. That's the whole goal of this podcast. But it's to really emphasize and focus on specific issues and push those into the public eye. To get people who maybe, before we focused a lot on getting guests and relatives and friends of those guests talking about agriculture. Now I really want to focus on getting the people who have talked about agriculture on this show and getting their help to push that word out to the general public that hasn't heard it yet. I'm still seeing a lot of misconceptions out there. I'm seeing people who are fixing some of those misconceptions, which is I'm really happy about. And we're seeing a sudden rise in agricultural-based podcasts, so I'm going to be working with those as well. But there's still a lot of work to do. We still have a long ways to go before we reach our goal of increasing the amount of general public that is agriculturally literate by definition. But we'll get there. It's just going to take time and patience and dedication. But I'm willing to put in the work for it if you guys are. So I know that this episode's really vague. I didn't want to leave the season on a cliffhanger. I wanted to address as many things as I could, and I know that things have kind of been going down the drain since everything's been opening back up, and which is I'm incredibly excited for. I mean, being able to go to classes on campus is one of the best things that's happened to my education and my mental health. Being able to go back into restaurants and to go to social events again is a huge deal for a lot of people, myself included. So I'm excited for that. I am a little sad to see the attention being brought away from the podcasting sphere, because that just means it's going to be that much harder to catch attention again and to get those conversations going now that people aren't terrified about being out of food again. Although there are still food shortages that are happening a lot right now, and those are going to be topics that we're going to be talking about as well. But all in all, I wanted to address what's going on with the podcast, where we're heading next. We're not quitting. I know that it's been a while. I've really been having a hard time getting episodes out, just because, again, my schedule has been kind of complicated. I haven't really had much time to sit down and record. Most of my time has been going into studying or working or sleeping, because that's about all I have time for right now. But soon. I can guarantee you soon you will see more content. I'm going to be focusing on the TikTok a lot more and trying to get some of that content out there. Me playing with some ideas for educational material, working with other creators and kind of poking their brain and working on some ideas for that. There's a lot down the pipeline that I'm excited about that I really would like to talk about. And as someone with a transparency policy, I would like to reveal a lot of that information, but I'm in a position where I think it'd be more exciting if you guys just caught on to it whenever we get there. And I'll be posting teasers and, getting stuff out, about what's going on. But it's not something that I'm ready to just reveal to the world yet. There are a couple things that I think really need to be worked through first before I start mentioning anything about them, because things could change. I might have to change some plans last second. I don't want to promise anything that I can't deliver on. So until more things are in stone, I'm going to leave you guys with this. Talk Academy is not going anywhere. It's actually going to get bigger and bigger, and there's a lot of effort going into the future of this podcast. There's a lot of potential here that we're going to be expanding upon. And I'm hoping that there's going to be a lot of new material that's going to be, showing itself to the public eye. There's going to be a lot of changes going on with the podcast and with my projects in general, but I'm incredibly excited to see where it goes. And I want to welcome you guys to this new era of Talk Academy, because these past couple years or 3 years now, I've been really trying to figure out what Talk Academy's personality is, what the purpose of the podcast is. And I always had a purpose in mind, but it's been changing a lot. It's been evolving and kind of moving around, and it hasn't quite found its place yet. And I think we're starting to get there. I think that as we drift away from the general conversations and just the random topics, and as we start to refine our conversations and focus really heavily on that advocacy, that education, that conversation with general public, we're starting to kind of find our place in this whole world. So that's one of the things I'm incredibly excited about. And I have to thank all of you so much for supporting and for listening and for, suggesting your topics and helping out and being such great members of the community and giving all of your effort and love and attention and passion into this project, because really that's what makes it run. I mean, I'm passionate about the project and I'm putting everything I physically can into it, but if I didn't like it anymore, I would quit. It's seeing everyone so excited about the topics and talking to my old friends and hearing how incredibly, passionate they are about the topics because I brought them back up again. And, hearing people all of a sudden have this newfound interest in agriculture is such a special thing for me to be able to share. And so I don't plan on quitting anytime soon. I want this to be a project that can continue even past me. If I decide one day I don't want to be the host anymore, I'd be able to pass it off to somebody, something. I want this podcast to evolve into something more powerful than I could have ever gotten into by myself. And so I have goals, I have dreams, I have passion that this podcast has the potential to do amazing things, and I'm fully ready to put in the work to get it to that place. So once again, thank you all so much for tuning in. I will see you guys in a few months, but be patient. Go back and listen to old episodes. Go watch TikToks. Engage with me on social media. I'm more than happy to have conversations, over message, answer any questions, share some fun stories or news articles or research that I've done. Let me know your thoughts on all of this and suggestions that you have going forward with Talk Academy. Or if you're interested in helping at all, I'm always happy to talk to people about potentially helping out with the podcast. And I can use as much help as I can get because this is very difficult to run by myself. But yeah, thank you all so much for all your support, for all of your love, for everything that you put into this project, because I would not be doing it if it weren't for you guys. So thank you again. I'll catch you in February. And don't forget, if you ate today, thank a farmer.